hello.
Hey,
Hi, Sam.
how are you?
Okay, fine. All right. So,
Good.
in the UK, it's now 1 p.m., right? It's in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and then I'm in Singapore, so basically it's in the evening. Okay.
All right.
So, had you had your lunch already?
Yeah, just had a quick lunch. Just had a quick lunch and then ready for
Okay.
this.
All right. Okay. So as mentioned yesterday, all right, we actually adopt a new format. So instead of me doing the introduction for the guest, every guest will actually be given a minute, 60 seconds, all right, to do a self-introduction. Okay. You can say anything about yourself, your hobby, or even about your country. Okay. So are you
Okay.
ready for this? All right.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
quite
ready.
all right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go.
So, hi guys. My name's Sam. I'm 27 years old. So currently at home with my parents in Matlock, but usually live in London. I've been doing wushu since I was about 3 or 4 years old, probably.
Wow.
But competing since 2002, so a long time. And I was world champion in 2006 as a junior in Malaysia. Won sort of various medals at the European competitions. Been on the British team since 2003. So that's my wushu journey. Outside of wushu, I'm a physio by trade. So I work in London as a private clinic. But I'm also trying to work as much as I can in film and TV as well, as an actor and as a stunt performer.
All right. You have another 15 seconds.
Oh, another 15 seconds.
Yeah.
We're in lockdown. I'm growing my hair really long. I'm trying to grow some facial hair. It looks stupid, but it's a tough thing for Asian guys to do, so I'm giving it a go.
Three,
I,
2, 1. Thumbs up.
Child. I didn't time
Okay.
myself. I haven't practiced.
Yeah. Okay. This is just a simple introduction, right, to break the ice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because this
Yeah.
is also the first time that I'm meeting you, right? So
Yeah.
this is also for me to know more about you, especially those non-wushu related stuff,
Mm.
all right? Because usually when we go online or we see you in the international competition, it's really more of just wushu, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's why
true.
it's
Yeah.
also for the viewers to get to know a little bit more about you. Okay. So based on your introduction, okay, I
Mm.
realized you started wushu at a very young age,
Yeah.
3 to 4. So, so what were you doing? I mean, like, how? As in, what was the intention when your parents sent you for class, right?
I didn't go to class at that age,
Oh,
so
okay.
I kind of grew up watching. I think like a lot of wushu athletes, right? We grew up watching Jet Li and Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee on and the
Mm,
movies.
yeah.
And I remember distinctly as a kid we had all the Once Upon a Time in China's the Wong Fei Hung series on VHS. So I
Yeah.
used to watch those every day, and I used to try and practice and pretend to be Wong Fei Hung, do all my Jet Li moves in the kitchen or in the living room. And it just got to a point where I was just trying to emulate, my heroes and the people that inspired me.
All right.
So my dad did a little bit of Tai Chi. So he
Oh,
sort
okay.
of started my journey, if you like, doing just like horse stances and punches and kicks at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where, we met a coach through some mutual friends. I
Okay.
went over, started training. I was probably like 6 or 7 at the time, I think.
All
And
right.
then after a while, my coach at the time, Mike, he sort of said, look, I think we've got a chance to compete here. So we started training for competitions. And then it just kind of, yeah, went on from
Mm.
there.
All right. So how old were you when as in you mentioned that you entered the state team when you were as in 2003, right? So how old were you then?
7, 8, 10.
Oh, 10. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
And then
2002 was my first
yes.
competition. So I was 9.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is very young.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember I did the first set Changquan in one of my first events.
First
And
set
I,
Changquan
yeah,
at
and I
such a
lit,
young age.
yeah, and I remember coming off and literally throwing up on the side of the competition area because I was so tired and so
Oh
nervous.
my God. All right. So when did you realize you had a talent in this sport? Was it the coach that identified you? That's why he put you towards the competitive training?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at the time at the class, it was mainly adults, and I was probably
Mm-hmm.
the only kid there.
Okay.
And whilst we were training, he would sort of get me to go to the front of the class to like count the stances and stuff because I could get in the
Mm.
stances and hold them. So I kind of knew at that time I had an ability in the sport, but we
Okay.
had no idea what other athletes in the country were doing or the world were doing. So we
Mm.
went into all these competitions really blind and having no expectations.
Okay.
And I guess it was after those competitions and having that experience that we understood where kind of our ability was in comparison to everyone else.
Okay, so how was the Wushu scene like in the UK?
Back
Is
then
it
or now?
then?
Then,
Previously, yeah.
back then it was pretty good. I remember the nationals having, quite a lot of teams. There were at least 3 or 4 big clubs around the country, and the junior team was doing really well.
Okay.
The first European Junior Championships were in Belgium, and we sent, pretty much a full squad. We had, I want to say, like 10, 12 kids, like juniors
Wow.
going.
Okay.
So we had a lot of people at that time. But as it went on, and I think as competitions got harder, less and less people were participating and competing. So.
Okay, so as you mentioned harder, so how do you define harder? Is it because it's harder to excel in the sport or to stand out? Or it's just how
both. Oh, training's obviously difficult, of course.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, when you do national competitions, the standard is what you have in the country.
Yes.
And, even at that time, there weren't loads of Wushu athletes in the country. So the standard was, only people that you saw. Once we started going to the Europeans and then the World Juniors opened in 2006, we started competing against kids and, athletes that had been training all their lives and training full time or regularly. And it was hard to keep up with that standard. Maybe people were, less motivated after seeing that, or the training got quite difficult to keep up with that standard. So I think just over time, people were less motivated, to train really.
Okay. So are there any ways that you think we can actually, or let's say for the people in the UK to increase the popularity of this sport? Or you think it's going to be a very tough journey?
That's a tough question to answer really. I think the biggest issue is that we don't have enough coaches and clubs. That's probably the main problem, because there are people interested in training Wushu. I think particularly adults. There are a lot of people that kind of want to, do things like the movies. There are a lot of stunt performers that want to learn Wushu, dancers and stuff. So there's definitely interest in learning the sport. But I think taking it to that competitive level is very different. The training you do recreationally to the training you do competitively is massively different.
Yeah.
And there aren't enough coaches in England that have the knowledge of that or the experience of that. There's probably 3 coaches that have the experience in England or in Britain to train at that level. So there isn't that kind of facility.
So is there any support by the country to raise this awareness of Wushu?
No, I wish.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, there's none from the UK government. Our governing body is a voluntary organisation, so everyone that works there are volunteers. We have minimal support as athletes and as clubs, financially. We only got a Wushu carpet 1.5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So until that point, we didn't even have a Wushu carpet. And that carpet that we train on isn't a permanent facility. Every time we train, we have to roll it out. We have to put it away at the end. So we don't have the same facilities as everyone else. And there is just no funding to support that. So it's difficult as athletes to, keep that motivation going sometimes. And, we all have to work as well. So there are a lot of barriers, to succeed in
this sport. Okay, so is this unique to just Wushu itself because it's one of the less popular sport, or it's like across the entire sporting scene in the UK? Let's take like soccer or football per se. I don't know.
Oh no, of course, yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean,
look. To let the people there to know that sometimes we have to be thankful for the support that we have in our country. So and
100%.
also and also to let maybe some international organizations know that some countries are putting in effort, but they lack the support. So that's the main objective of finding out, and not to really dig so into the problem, but it's more on like doing a case study to understand the situation that every country faces. Yeah.
No, it's a great question, because put it this way: if you walk down the street in England or in Britain and you asked every person, "Do you know what Wushu is?" 99% of them aren't going to know. So that's one of the biggest problems is awareness, of the sport. But, other sports are way more funded because they're Olympic sports or they're more widely participated. So there's a reason for the government to fund those sports. If you fund Wushu in Britain, it's like throwing money down the drain. because you're not going to get anything back from it. You know, it's just a case of doing it because you want to help people or doing it because you love the sport. So there's no awareness, there's no kind of push really to promote wushu in Britain. So everyone that competes in it, everyone that participates in it, does it purely for the love and, you know, purely because we enjoy doing it.
So do you think if wushu was listed as an Olympic sport, that would help the situation?
Again, it's difficult to answer because there are a lot of Olympic sports at the moment that Britain don't really fund that much either. You know, we tend, as a British Olympic organisation, we tend to fund the sports that are likely to give us medals. So cycling and athletics and, you know, those kind of sports are well funded. But even sports like wrestling or, I don't know, badminton lost their funding a few years ago, even though badminton's a big sport. So just being an Olympic sport, again, doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get funding or support. So that's why it's such a tough question. I think, on the whole, if the sport was more popular and if more people were participating in it, then there'd be more drive. You know, there's more reason to get involved.
So the entire
right now,
ecosystem of the wushu community in the UK have to be more vibrant, and people have to feel that like there is a keen interest to participate. Then that's where the support will come in, right?
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, that's what we've been trying to do in the past couple of years. I mean, look, as an example, up until I think 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't even have a regular national championships. You know, it sort of fell away because no one was participating in the competition. And my coach became head of Taolu, and we started to then try and really drive this national championships. But it got to the point where we had to open it up to Europe. You know, we didn't have enough participants even within the country to make a competition. So we opened it up to Europe, made it an open competition, and even then we could just about justify holding one. So, you know, there are a lot of people that do it recreationally, and it's great. You know, I coach in London once a week, and we have a great community going on there. There's lots of people that want to participate, but again, that competitive level is very different.
So as you mentioned that there is no constant funding, right, to fund the federation or the organization that is managing the national team. So where do the funds come from when athletes represent the country for competitions?
So as athletes, we pay everything up front by ourselves. The travel, the hotel, the training, the tracksuits, everything we pay ourselves. And then depending on your results, sometimes you get a bit of funding afterwards. So for Shanghai last year, I think, you know, because we'd been on the team for quite a while, we got a little bit more funding than the newer athletes that joined. But even then, it's not covering 10%, 15% of the total fee, you know, so we pay for everything.
Okay, so it is quite tough to be an athlete, a wushu athlete. Would you say that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's pretty tough. It's probably one of the toughest sports to try and excel at here.
Okay. So let's go back to 2006, right, when you won the first world title at the junior competition. So was that an expected like goal that you thought that you would get, or you were just like going there, okay, just try my best and it just happens?
No, we had no idea what to expect. So for 2006, I was the only athlete from Britain attending. So I went there with my coach and my family. They all went with me. And I remember actually turning up to the warm-up area on the first day, and Team Vietnam were training on the carpet. And I remember seeing like the amount of athletes they had and the standard they had, and I was like, wow, this is tough. You know, there's going to be a really tough competition. So we had no idea what to expect. You know, we had no expectations. We didn't have really a goal. It was just to go out there, enjoy ourselves, and do the best performance that we could do. And after it was the 32 Changchun, I think was my first event. And I remember, you know, doing the routine and being really happy with the performance. And I remember hearing kind of my coach and my family support throughout the whole thing, and they were really encouraging and really supportive. And I remember hearing the response, and I was like, wow, that was a good performance. You know, that was the best performance I could have possibly done. And wherever I finished within that didn't really matter. But to me, just being able to go out there and show people what I could do, that was what my goal.
Yeah, and you were just an individual athlete, right, representing the country. So probably when there is like other competition going on, you know, other teams will have their teammates like around and they will like, you know, have fun, enjoy the moment. But it was probably a lonely experience for you, but you have your family and your coach there with you. So I think that would
I
be
never felt lonely. No,
oh,
never.
okay.
You know, my coach, my family, they were all there, and it was great. You know, they were all there for me as well, and I felt very loved and very supported.
Yeah.
It was lonely in terms of like the lineup. I
Yeah, the
remember,
yeah.
yeah, like even being on the carpet for warm-ups when each country had their allocated time. I had the whole
Yes.
carpet to myself. You know, I didn't have to share it with anyone, so I had all the space. But I remember like lining up for the parades, and like there was just me holding the flag. But I'd be
Then
next to, you know, all the Asian countries. They'd have like these massive squads, you know, and I was just there on my own, you know, trying to do my thing. But I think that just comes as, you know, because the sport is so small
yeah.
in Britain and in Europe, it's just something that we deal with, something that we just live with.
Okay, so after winning the gold medal, right, at such a major competition, what's next, or what was the immediate thought that you have? Did it give you a bigger motivation, or it actually added like more pressure on you because you may want to push yourself a little bit more for the subsequent competitions? So which side is more likely for you?
Um, I think it was realizing what I was capable of doing at the time. You know, having
Okay.
done my best performance, I knew that after that I could be up there with these pro countries and all these,
Yeah.
you know, these athletes that train so much. And I don't think there was so much a pressure to win again, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
pressure for me to be able to repeat that performance.
Mm.
And you know, even now, every time I go and do a competition, my goal is to do the best that I can do,
Mm.
regardless of where I finish. You know,
Yep.
what I can achieve in terms of my performance has always been our goal. So
Mm.
I guess the pressure I put on myself was to repeat that same feeling, repeat that same performance. And if that got me a medal, great. If not, then that's fine, you know.
Mm. Okay, so what is the thing that you always look forward to when you get to represent the UK in these international competitions?
What do I look forward to?
Yes, most.
Uh, I think, oh, I mean, obviously seeing all the friends from around the world is great. You know, I've met so many great people over the years, so many friends that, you know, I hold close to me, and that community
Yeah.
within the sport is amazing. And I love going to competitions and, you know, catching up with people and all of that. But, you know, there's nothing prouder than representing your country. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a sport or whatever it can be. But being able to represent your country in something
Yeah.
that you enjoy doing, you know, there's nothing greater than that, really.
Mm. So before the entire COVID situation, right, what was your regular training like? Given that you really have to put in a lot of initiative and discipline, right? Especially when you have lack of support, sometimes it can be very like discouraging, or you know you
Mm.
may lack certain motivation. So what was the training commitment like for you previously before the entire like lockdown situation?
It was really tough because I moved to London in 2016, and my club is based in Derbyshire, which is in the middle of England.
Mm.
So we only train. Well, I only train with my coach once a week in terms of
Wow.
actual wushu
Okay.
training. So
Okay.
on a Saturday, you know, I'd wake up in London. I'd have to drive to Derbyshire, which takes about 2.5 hours in the car. So I'd
Wow.
drive to training. Then
Okay.
we'd set up the carpet. So we'd lay out all the jigsaw mats. We'd lay out the wushu carpet on top. Train for 3 hours. Roll up the carpets. Put the mats back away. Then I drive back down to London.
Oh my god.
So
That means the traveling time itself is two and a half
yeah,
hours times two, right? Means 5 hours,
yeah.
meaning oh my god.
5 to 6 hours for me to get to training and back
Oh my
for
god. And
on a
it's just
Saturday.
for probably a 3 hour training session. You got to commit another 6 hours of traveling.
I spend more
Oh,
time in my car than I do on the
oh
carpet.
my god. Oh, this is wow, okay.
So
It's pretty
um,
insane. The commitment
that's
is really
just
there.
that's
Yeah.
just how it is, unfortunately. You know, because we don't have the facilities in London. My coach is in Derbyshire. You know, so I can't get that kind of quality time anywhere else.
Wow.
But
Okay.
every day I'll go to the gym. I'll do my strength and conditioning. You know, I'll do my wushu stuff as much as I can within the gym in like the certain space that I have. But to be on a 14 by 8 meter space to fully go out and do your full routines, we do that once a week.
Oh
So,
wow.
you know, it's a tough commitment, but that's what it
Oh.
takes at the moment.
So how long have you been leading this like lifestyle for? Like every week have to travel 5 hours. So how long did this like
4 years.
for 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Oh my god! Even before the COVID situation.
Even before COVID, yeah.
Oh my god!
So,
Okay, it's quite mind blowing because this is really a very a huge commitment because it's just traveling time alone is like 6 hours. It's just for one
yeah,
session. If let's say
just
that
for one,
you travel there for a week, then you can have like 3, 4, 5 sessions. I think it's still okay, but it's just for one session. So the traveling time is really
yeah,
almost doubled the training time. So this is really
pretty much.
yeah, it's quite shocking.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if I have less work on a Friday, then I'll drive up and stay with my parents overnight, and then the journey then's only 40 minutes. But like, you know, I'm not the only one. So on Saturday we have people coming from Liverpool and from slightly further out from London. So we all drive 1.5, 2 hours to get to training on a Saturday for the national team. And that's just unfortunately the way it is because, like I said before, we don't have the facilities or the coaches anywhere else. So we're all committed to, you know, to this journey.
So much respect, really.
Thank you.
It's really not easy, you know, to pursue like this interest or passion with such heavy commitment. Okay, so given that there is this a COVID situation, so how have your training changed? How has your life changed?
Well, I mean, life's changed for everyone, right? You know, it's in terms of my job as a physio, we shut the clinic down, so we couldn't work anymore.
Okay.
So I haven't been working since mid-March, I think, end of March. Wow. So, you know, we've had a bit of support from the government, but financially it's been difficult. Been back home, which is great, you know, spending time with the parents, and it's been really good to spend some quality time back home. I'm getting fatter because my mum's a great cook, so, you know, it's that's not helping the training.
Yeah.
But of course, yeah, training, you know, we can't go to the club to train or anything, so we've been doing our own thing. Okay. I've been doing a Zoom class with my sort of club in London, the Imperial that I coach. We do a Zoom class once a week, and then as the competitive squad, we do a Zoom chat once a week and just do like a quiz, just so that we, you know, keep things social and we kind of keep in contact and stuff. Yeah. But then of course, yeah, training's all been individual, so home workouts and going to the field and, you know, doing what we can in the grass.
Right. So do you think that you actually had the discipline to diligently fulfill your training requirements, or were there days that, okay, maybe you should like take a rest or like slack a little bit?
I mean, honestly, in the first couple of weeks, yeah, it was difficult to have that motivation. I think, you know, it's quite easy sometimes, especially now with social media, right? You look on social media, Instagram or whatever, and everyone's training. You know, everyone's doing something or everyone's looking busy. Yeah. And you suddenly think, you know, oh, should I be doing something? Am I being really lazy? But when there's such a big change in your life situation, your social situation or financial situation, I think it's okay sometimes to take that step back and actually say, okay, this is a bit of time for me. So for the first week or so, I found it difficult to train. Absolutely. But then afterwards, I started to find a routine again. I started doing some training at home. And even watching like these sort of interviews, and there's been loads of live chats with other athletes on other channels, and you know, once you see that, you get that drive back, you get that motivation back, and then you start to train again. Yeah. But yeah, definitely it was tough to start with.
So this is the power of social media, right? Sometimes by looking, like, you know, using a finger to scroll through your phone, you know, you get a lot of content, and the content really varies from the different topics, right? It can be food, it can be fitness, it can be about Wushu. Yeah, so that's the sort of reason why we would like to engage the different athletes of Wushu enthusiasts across the world to really share and give their inputs about their perspective towards the current situation, especially, you know, to motivate the entire Wushu community to hype up a little bit, to add more vibrancy, you know, to let Wushu be seen or more known across the world, right? Because a lot of people think that Wushu is just a Chinese sport, you know, because it's originated from China. But in terms of like the European countries, we can see some of the states are actually pushing Wushu quite a bit. You know, they're doing a lot of promotions. Yeah, and we hope that we can see a more vibrant community in the near future. Okay, so as you mentioned that you are a physiotherapist, right? So did Wushu a factor that you actually considered when you pursue your studies in physio?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as an athlete, as a junior, you have loads of injuries. So I probably spent as much time at the physio clinic, locally as I did with my coach. So that definitely had a factor in terms of what I wanted to study. And then as I've gotten older and the more knowledge I've had, you use that knowledge to then help your own practice and help others around you. So yeah, definitely it's helped me massively in terms of my training and my performance. But I also, at the same time, I always knew I wanted to work in the film and TV industry.
Yeah.
So that was also something that I'm looking more to get involved with now.
Okay, so let's go into your interest first, which is the film and TV. So I saw your Instagram and your website, right? So you actually were involved in some of the productions before. So would you like to share a little bit more so that we can get to know?
Sure. The first film I was ever involved in was called The World's End. So it's like a comedy action with Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, like Martin Freeman and stuff. And I got onto that because I used to train gymnastics with a load of people near me, and they've gone on to become some of the best stunt performers in the world. And at the time, my friend was working on the film, and they needed some stunt performers to do a fight scene that looked like teenagers or kids.
Okay.
So obviously, being Asian and looking about 12 all the time, he asked me to go along. So that was my first experience of being on set. And then, it was a fantastic experience. And as I said before, that's why I got involved in Wushu in the first place, because you see all that in the films and you want to be involved in that. So then after university, I worked in the hospitals for a while, but I knew that to pursue that more directly, I needed to move to London. So that's why I decided to move there in 2016. I started acting classes with a great group in London called The Unseen. And I started doing more auditions, trying to get involved with a bit more stunt work and stuff. And, hopefully that journey will continue to progress as time goes on.
So is the demand for stunts and action high in the UK? As in the demand for such actors?
Yeah, massively. You look at all the blockbuster films now, and the majority of them are action films, right? Like your whole Marvels, your DCs, your Star Wars, they're all action-based films. So there's a huge desire for stunt performers, definitely. But I think also in terms of like action stars, we're probably getting to a point now where Jet Li's moving on, Jackie Chan's getting old. There's going to be a void to fill, and there's a lot of up and coming action actors out there, and there's a lot of films coming out that might start to fill that void. So hopefully there's an opportunity there for everyone and a lot of people to start getting involved more.
Yeah, I think this is really this is actually a pretty sought after career for a lot of Wushu athletes, right? Because after they reach a certain level in the competition, and then they want to move on to something more sustainable, more interesting. So a lot of them tend to explore the stunt and the action scene, right? Especially for movies. So So usually, how do you go for the how are these casting being conducted or being organized, such that you know that you can go for audition?
So in terms of stunt performers, there's a British register. There's a British register for stunt performers.
Oh, okay.
So there's a qualification you can do for that. There are certain things you have to achieve, certain things you can do. Okay. And then once you're on that register, if the stunt coordinator for a movie needs people, then they'll look on that register or ask people, and then, you can get involved that way. And Wushu is one of those qualifications that you can use towards being a qualified stunt performer.
Oh,
so
okay,
that's one thing you can do.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, which is why there are a lot of stunt performers, I think, that are interested in doing Wushu. And also because it gives you that weapon work, it gives you that ability to coordinate and move your limbs. So it's something that I think a lot of people are interested in. In terms of acting, then that's a case of getting an agent who will then put you forward for castings and auditions. You get a show reel of your own performances to make, that you submit like a CV. And then it's up to you to do a good job in the audition to turn up and then hopefully land the job.
So is there an ideal role that you are looking forward to?
Oh, man. I wish it would have been great to be involved in Shang-Chi, the Marvel movie that's coming out next year.
Yeah.
I did audition for it, but I wasn't ready at the time, and I'm probably not ready right now to take on something that big. It's a huge responsibility. But yeah, something like a Marvel film would be obviously a dream. But hopefully, yeah, hopefully one day if Jet Li and Jackie Chan still around, then sharing a fight scene with them and Donnie Yen, obviously, that would that would be goals.
Yeah. So as you mentioned about the readiness, right? So what are the factors or the consideration you have to consider yourself as ready?
As an actor, you mean?
Yes,
Oh,
correct.
in performance.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. It's funny because I think for me, I've only been studying acting for maybe a year and a half on and off. And it's been difficult because to split your time, split my time between earning a living, training wushu, and trying to do film and TV, that's a lot of things to focus on. And it's been difficult for me personally to put my energies into all three equally for them to all succeed. So things change. So for the lead up to Shanghai for the World Championships last year, I didn't go to acting classes for a couple of months because my energy was on preparing for the competition.
Yeah.
But then, you come back to class and then you've forgotten everything that you've done before, or you're finding it difficult to get back into the rhythm of it. I was having this conversation with my coach last week, funnily enough, and one of the things we said was that when I do wushu, I've been doing that for 20 years or so. I know what I'm doing. I'm confident in my ability.
Yeah.
And I know that once I'm on the carpet, I can do this. This is my world.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started with acting, that's something that's completely new to me. And I was starting from scratch. And it was like being back at that first ever competition or being back at that first European Championships. It's a scary world. So, for me, it's about building up that confidence in my own ability in that world. And just going out there, being brave, taking risks and not being afraid of failing as well. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the past year or so is, you can't, when I first went into it, because I was so confident and comfortable in wushu, I felt so out of place doing acting. So it was very difficult for me to become a beginner again because I was so used to being good at something. So then to become completely new and to be rubbish at something was very difficult for me to accept. And it's taken a long time. Even now I struggle with it sometimes. So until I'm confident in my ability there, then I probably can start doing that better.
So have you actually set a deadline on when do you want to achieve like something big in acting? Or do you think that this is just a constant dream that you will always want to pursue?
Again, it's really interesting because I was just having this conversation last week with my coach.
Oh, really?
So as I said before, it's very difficult for me to divide my energies between all those three things. And I think realistically, until one of those things becomes less of a priority for me, then the others aren't going to succeed in the same way. I think when I finish my competitive career in wushu, once I've stopped putting all my energy towards the World Championships or the Nationals or whatever competition it is, I can then drive that the same energy I had there into that goal and into that world. And I think at that point, I'll be able to, progress quicker. There's obviously the argument to say that you can do all three at the same time. And of course there is. But I think that level of progression, if you put all your energy into one place, your progress is like this.
Yes.
If you put a third of it in there, then it might progress, but it's maybe not as quick.
Yeah, because everybody have the same amount of time, right? So everybody have 24 hours a day, and then we only can really focus on the limited things, right? If let's say that we were to just focus on one track, we can put all our resources on it, we can progress faster. But if we have three options, it is pretty tough. Yeah. So when we are at this topic, right? So have you ever thought of like retirement in wushu as a professional athlete?
Well, I'm not a professional athlete. Let's start there.
As an athlete.
I know what you mean, competitive. Yeah. Again, it's interesting that I'm 27 now, and I think for me, next year, if the worlds go ahead, hopefully it does. If it goes ahead, I think 28, and maybe 30. That probably my last couple of years of being at the best physical condition, and in terms of time and career, I think they're probably my best opportunities to do well. It's a shame because for me, in 2010, I ruptured my ACL and it took me like 3 to 4 years to get back because I went to university. I had to have 2 operations. So I lost a whole chunk of time there where you progress from a junior athlete to a senior athlete. And I lost all of that. So I've been playing catch up since then. But I've always been looking for that performance that I did in '06. I've always been looking to recreate that performance of leaving it all out on the carpet and being able to say, yes, I'm happy with that. That is the best I can do. And I've not done that yet for me at the World Championships. And, you know, I want to give myself the best opportunity to do that. So I think next year and the year after, they're probably my last chances to do that. And if it doesn't happen, then, you know, it's been a great journey and I've loved it, but it's probably time to move on after that.
Okay, so as you mentioned that you actually got an ACL injury when you were young. So how did that happen?
So it was at the third World Junior Championships in Singapore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was doing the second set
2010.
Changchun, 2010. Yeah.
2010, yeah.
Second set Changchun. It's the Fei Jiao, Song Feng Jiao split.
Yeah.
As I came down, yeah, my knee just popped out the wrong way. So I felt it go, and I felt it come back in.
Okay.
And at the time, I just thought, oh, it's just a sprain, so I'll try and carry on. So I got up, tried to carry on the routine. I think I got as far as halfway through the third section, and then my knee collapsed. You know, it obviously wouldn't take the weight, and it was swelling up and everything. So, yeah, had an X-ray straight away in Singapore. They tested it, and they said, yeah, you've ruptured your ACL. So then came back, had the operation a couple of months later. But I also tore my meniscus, so they repaired my meniscus.
Okay.
But then that failed after about 6 months.
Oh,
so
wow.
I retore my cartilage when I went back into training. So then in 2012, I had to have my cartilage taken out. And then it took me another 2 years probably after that before I got back into training. And then I think 2014 was my first international competition back. So it took a long time.
So it's almost like 3 to 4 years of break because you had to recover, right? You got to rest for recovery. So that's pretty long for an athlete, right? Because and that was the stage whereby you were transiting from the junior to the senior. Have the thought of giving up ever come to your head during that 3 to 4 years?
I'd be lying if I said it didn't. You know, even though I loved the sport so much at the time and it had given me so much, I think, you know, when you have one operation, you get back into training, then you have another operation. You obviously have these thoughts of giving up and, oh, maybe that was my last competition. Maybe I'll never get back to it because I can't. But I was lucky in the fact that I was at university, so I had distractions. I was focusing on my qualifications. But that drive to get back and that drive to be a competitive athlete again, that never changed. You know, I always wanted to get back. But yes, there were tough days where I thought maybe that's it. You know, maybe that's me done. But you know, you find it deep within yourself to find that drive. You get back in the gym, you compete again, and it's been a long journey since then. And as I said before, I think that's hugely you know, impacted my sort of progress as a senior athlete.
So how is the situation now for your legs? Is it okay, fully recovered, or there's still some like side effects or pain during unexpected times?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, physically I'm the strongest I've ever been, and that's due to the amount of kind of training and gym work I do on the knee. But there are some limitations, like I find kneeling quite a struggle, to fully kneel down on the floor, even sometimes fully squatting. So we've taken all split landings or right-sided split landings out of my routine. You know, we only do marble landings now, as you know, to try and protect that as much as possible. But that's why I'm such a big advocate of strength and conditioning, because without that, it's you know, you can't train and compete at this level. It's completely impossible. Particularly because we only train once a week as well, right? So you know, we only get that one opportunity to do well and do your wushu training on a Saturday, and if you're not physically fit enough to perform on a Saturday, then you know you're going to have injuries and you're going to increase risk.
Okay, so as you mentioned that a physiotherapy is one of your I said because of your injury, it leads to a factor of consideration for you to pursue your knowledge in physio. So could you share with us a little bit more on how we can reduce the risk of sports injury, especially in Wushu? Because I think this is actually a very common thing in Wushu, whereby athletes will get like minor injuries, or for unfortunate ones, they will get like a major injury, like what you have been through. So are there any like exercises or any tips that we can do to reduce the risk of injury?
I mean, there's obviously a lot we can do to reduce the risk of injury. I think what it's important to say though is with Wushu particularly, there is always a risk of injury. You know, it's just minimizing that risk, particularly at a competitive level. You know, if you're training recreationally, then of course you can minimize that to very small.
Yeah.
But when you're training at a world, European, international competitive level, we're pushing those boundaries. So you're always going to have that risk. But making sure that you're physically fit enough for the training is the most important thing. You know, you have to prepare your body and mentally as well for the training. So, you know, for me, because I know I have this knee injury and I've had ankle injuries in the past, a lot of my strength and conditioning is focused around having strong quads, strong hamstrings, good proprioception in my ankle, a strong core, so that I'm then, when I go to training, I know that my physical ability is able to cope with the demands of the training that we're going to do. So definitely strength and conditioning. And I think the biggest thing I've learned over the past couple of years is sleep and your lifestyle. I think particularly for the guys maybe in Europe or the ones that are competing recreationally, we have work to deal with, we have other things to worry about. So there are a lot of things for us to focus on. And if you don't get your 7-8 hours of sleep a night, your risk of injury significantly increases, and your risk of, you know, the way you perceive pain significantly increases as well. Your recovery reduces. So making sure you have good sleep is massively important. But also making sure that you're sort of socially and mentally happy as well. Because that, again, has a massive effect on your performance and recovery. So they're important things to consider. But yeah, of course, strength and conditioning is key.
Okay, so just nice, we have a question here. So, so we have a question here. Can you share the best way to strengthen your core muscles from a physiotherapist point of view?
It's interesting. There's a lot of research recently, because before, you know, to train your core, you'd be told to lie on the floor, you tense your core and like focus on contracting the muscles.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of research to say maybe that's not the best way of recruiting them. And actually the best way is to do dynamic exercises that involve kind of the whole body. So even doing things like, you know, compound movements like deadlifts, squats, or cleans and things like that, you're significantly increasing the amount of core activation. You know, that's a lot more doing those movements than it is just lying on the floor and tensing your abs. You know, so I do a lot of those kind of exercises. Things, I like using the cables. So like having a cable machine, you know, up here, and you're doing the twist and turns. So again, when you look at Wushu, you've got a lot of twisting movements in Nandu. So I think a lot of those are very useful. But yeah, I would definitely look towards more compound exercises that use the whole body. So things, you know, like planks, and then your variations within your planks, your core twists, you know, they're way more effective than just lying on the floor and tensing your abs or doing crunches, because realistically, that's not really doing anything functional for training.
Okay, so I think one of the key thing here is dynamic exercises, right? So explore. I think because some of the athletes, you know, they tend to be more fixated in the mindset, whereby, okay, I have been doing this training in this particular manner for the past few years, and then I will keep like doing the same thing. But sometimes after doing the same thing for so many years, you realize that the effectiveness would reduce, right? So that's why Samuel actually recommended dynamic exercises, change the different movements. I think a good resource would be YouTube, right? I think there's a lot of like reference video on YouTube, especially during this period when we are all stuck at home. You guys can also explore, you know, research a little bit more, and strengthening your core is one of the key. Okay, so now we talk about the injury prevention. So unfortunately, somehow injury happens, right? So what are the measures or the myth that athletes always misinterpreted or misbelieve that it works? Yeah, you know, sometimes they say that because there's a physiotherapy versus TCM. Because there's always a debate between the Western physiotherapy method of treatment and traditional Chinese medicine. So are there any like myth that you want to debunk?
Again, this is really funny because obviously growing up with parents from Hong Kong as a kid, you know, if you had an injury or something, you rub some Tadazo on it, right? You just rub some ointment on it and you'll be fine, you know. But then I spent 3 years at university learning that that's the wrong thing to do. So, you know, what do you believe? Because, the Asian style of medicine is completely different. And a lot of the things, the principles is in complete conflict to what Western medicine decides. But for me, as I've got older as well, when I first started studying, I just refused to do anything Eastern. You know, like, oh, that's all rubbish. It doesn't work. But then you sort of think about, well, actually, that's been around for so many years. It's been around for thousands of years. So there must be something in there that works, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I try and keep my mind open. But say you've just got an acute injury, I wouldn't start, say like you sprained your ankle, right? Or you tore a ligament in your knee. I wouldn't start rubbing lots of like Chinese ointment on it. That wouldn't be the first thing I would do. I would definitely, you might want to use some ice in that initial period to help with the swelling and to help with the pain. But obviously, first of all, get a professional opinion. Don't treat yourself. But what we do now in Western physio, we focus a lot more on movement. So when you're injured, as soon as we can get you physically back training safely, then that's what we're going to do. Rather than sort of, lying on bed for 10 days or a week for pain to settle, we want to get you on your feet. We want to get you moving as quickly as we can in a safe manner, because then that will start to encourage the body to recover quicker.
Yeah.
So you engage the muscles, you engage your nervous system again, and that's the best thing to do. So the best example is like a sprained ankle. Depending on how bad the sprain is, if you can't walk, then obviously don't walk for the first day or so. But if it's comfortable, just start walking gently, start doing some simple range of movement exercises, and then build it up from there. So, always consult help for sure. But I would say movement is key. Like generally, if you move, if you exercise, then that's the key thing for recovery.
Okay, so everybody have their own beliefs. So ultimately, this is from a science perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you have any conflict with your parents? As they are from Hong Kong, they will believe more in the traditional Chinese medicine. So, are there any conflicts like among like your parents and you because of the way of treatment?
This is funny. So they're listening to this interview now, and just last week I pulled my back because I was helping them in the garden, right? And I was lifting some really heavy gravel, and I pinged my back, and I wanted to just kind of do some stretches, do some gentle exercises for recovery. But they have a home cupping system, like the suction cups.
Yeah.
So my mom and my dad were like, "You've got to put this on your back."
The bark one, right? The bark.
Yeah. With like the pressure pump and stuff, and it like So they were like, "We've got to put this on your back. It really helps. It really helps." And I was like, "I don't want to do it. But my mom was like, "No, you got to do it. It's going to really help." I was like, "Fine, okay." So my dad put it on my back. He pumped it up, and I instantly went into spasm. Like my back just went, like it went really, really tight. I was like, "No, get it off. I'm not having this anymore." So, they obviously do it with the love and the best intentions. But that was one example of, a little kind of conflict that we
but
had.
It's really funny and cute, and you have like different perspective, and they insist on like trying out, and then it caused like some pain to you. So I think it's quite comical. I just trying to imagine the whole situation. I think it's quite funny.
Yeah, it was quite funny. I was in pain, but it was funny. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we have about like another 6 to 7 minutes. So now we will open up the questions for the viewers to send in their question. We have quite a few, so let's take them one by one. Okay, so here we go. All right. So what is the most difficult thing for you you had to face during your Wushu journey?
Coming back from the ACL, yeah, for sure. It was a time also where, like I said, I was at university, so I had distractions, but then coming back to competition, that first European Championships, I noticed just how different my level kind of was, or where I thought I should have been compared to where I actually was. And it was tough to come back from that because I was used to performing well and used to doing, performing good at these competitions, and then to realize I wasn't at that level was very difficult. And coming off the back of Jakarta as well, where the first senior world championships I went to, again, I didn't perform as well as I wanted to. So it was a very difficult journey for me to then build up that confidence in my own ability, build up that desire to kind of be better, get training, and then on top of that, moving to London and that whole journey we talked about for training and stuff, and less training with my coach. It's been very difficult, but I've adapted my lifestyle, I've adapted my training, and changed my mindset so that now I'm happy with where I am. I'm the happiest I've been in terms of my Wushu career, and I'm really confident that with the training that we're doing, I'll be able to perform well again.
Okay, just a comment here. Okay, we have a TCM practitioner here, so please use coupling with caution. Okay, it is for excess conditions. Okay, so this is just a disclaimer.
So,
right?
Mom, Dad, if you're listening.
So it's very nice to see the comments like this coming in. Yeah. Okay, let's see the next question. All right, here we go. So will you practice traditional styles after retiring from competition?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. As a junior, we did traditional styles as well. So I used to
Oh.
compete in Mantis, Zhejian, and Pudao. So I did those. I did Bazi for a couple of months as well a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, like I love old school wushu. Like even in my choreography and stuff that I do now, you know, I try to keep that old school flavor in there. And for me, the traditional side of things really brings that out.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd love to do some traditional stuff once I've finished. And some Tai
Mm.
Chi as well. I've always wanted to learn Chen style. So
Yeah, I think Tai Chi is also something that a lot of people like mistaken it for the seniors, right? But I actually observe there are many youngsters nowadays learning, and I also see like a lot of Chinese companies actually conduct Tai Chi classes for their staff.
yeah,
You
I
know,
saw that
as a
video.
form of,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's really cool to see like Wushu is like entering the regular lifestyles of executives as well. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Oh yes. Before I forget, we actually have a segment, right? We wanted to give away a gift to our one of our viewers. Okay. Basically,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
little like keychain here. Okay, a limited edition Wushu Stars keychain that we'll be sending out to our viewers. Okay. One lucky viewer. So what's gonna happen is that Samuel, okay, since he has
Getting ready.
an exploration for acting, right? So we put him to his test. Okay. We require him to act out a character, and then you guys must guess who he's acting. Okay, and then the first to comment in the comment section with the correct answer, we will mail this to you regardless of your country. So wherever you are, we will just try our very best to get this to you. Okay, so Samuel, are you
All
ready?
right, I'm ready. I'm
Okay,
ready. I'm ready.
I will set a timer of a minute. Okay, in case nobody answer it, then
Because I'm that bad at acting.
no, then you gotta act it out until the end of the session. So I will set
Okay.
a boundary, okay? I will set a minute. So those of you who can who can guess the correct answer, feel free to spam it on the comment section, okay? But only the first person who get the correct answer wins, okay? So here we go,
Okay.
counting down in 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Okay.
Okay, I think this is pretty obvious. Okay. All right.
Okay.
I think this
What
is
was
quite
it?
obvious. Uh-huh.
Yeah, my.
Hey, you cannot say the answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I think it's pretty good. Someone is near getting the same direction, but yes, it is from that series, but this is not the character we are looking for. All right. Yeah. Uh-huh. Someone mentioned Avatar. No, it's not Avatar. Okay.
I'm
It's from
struggling
that
now.
series. Okay. Okay, another like 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
No.
Yes, it's from that series. Everybody is from that series. I can see the answers. I mean the different characters you guys are bringing up, but there is one character. Okay. That hasn't been mentioned. Not the bunny. Someone mentioned the bunny. No, no, no.
Oh,
Someone
I'm
mentioned Dragon Ball.
struggling now.
No. Okay. Okay, 4 syllables. Okay, I can just tell you 4 syllables. Okay, and there is something, something. Oh yes, we got an answer. Okay, I think Patricia. Okay, yeah, she got it. It's Hermione.
Yay!
I was thinking why you keep pointing to the knee. Why you keep pointing to the knee?
Sounds
Oh,
like knee.
yeah,
Fourth
that's
syllable, knee.
yeah. Okay, but I think this is a pretty fun session, right? Yeah. So he was trying very hard, you know. A lot of them get like the correct movie or the correct book series. You know, they mentioned Harry Potter, Hagrid, and all these different characters. Yeah, but it's actually a female. Right. The reason why I didn't say female because it would be very obvious because she's the most outstanding female character there. Okay,
I
so
love Harry Potter.
yeah, it's from the UK too, right?
Oh, Patricia. Yeah, yeah. She's from the
Yeah.
Imperial Club. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Patricia, later you can actually drop us a DM with your mailing address. Then we will send the gift over to you. Okay. All right. So yeah. Well, I think this is pretty fun.
It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. So let's carry on. We have about 3 more minutes. So let's see
Sure.
what other questions do we have. Okay. Here we go. Okay. I think we have a question from your friend. I think. Yeah, because I know that Steve is actually your teammate, right? So I think this is asking the obvious, but yeah, what is your answer? How do you want to reply? Yeah, your
Steve is
friend.
definitely taller and older.
Yeah, you got to emphasize the older part, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, we've been training for a long time. I think 2003. So he joined the year after I competed, and we've been training together ever since. And he's been a great teammate. We push each other to be the best we can be, and I wouldn't have done half the stuff that I've done without him. So but that's
Okay.
as much as I'm complimenting him. So that's it.
Okay. Now we are down left with the final 2 minutes. So
Sure.
okay. So before we end off, is there anything that you want to say to motivate the Wushu community out there, or any quotes that you strongly believe that you want to share with everybody?
Oh wow. Well, first of all, thank you, Timothy, for inviting me onto the channel. I wasn't expecting anyone to, be asked onto the channel or hear about kind of my journey. So I'm very humbled to be on here. But I guess I think for us, particularly in Britain, to be able to compete at the Worlds and be competitive, we have to, obviously we travel a lot, we sacrifice a lot to be there, and we wouldn't do it unless we loved the sport, and we love training, we love the community. And I think if you ever lose sight of that, and it's easy to do when you're not doing well, if you get injuries, if you don't perform well, it's easy to lose sight of why you're doing something. So if you're ever questioning yourself, why am I training, or why am I getting up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym, you have to find that within yourself. And if you can't find that, then, do you really want it? Do you really want to be training, and do you really want to be there? Particularly at this time now, where with lockdown, it's very difficult to be happy mentally and physically. So making sure you keep all your loved ones around you. I wouldn't have done half the stuff without my family, without my coach, without my friends. It's impossible to achieve things by yourself. So, surround yourself with people you trust, surround yourself with people you love, and surround yourself with people that will push you to be a better version of yourself. And, in terms of Wushu itself, it's a sport that I love, and I'll always be involved in it. But if you ever lose sight of that, then you have to dig deep, and find that within.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so for those of you who are looking for any action stars or stunt actors, okay, you can always find Samuel. Okay, he's always, I think probably he's ready for it. So yeah, feel free to find him. Okay, and also please do not forget to follow Wushu Stars or Samuel. Okay, so that you can get more updates about his personal life. Okay, and also I think tomorrow onwards there will be a series of online classes conducted by the IWUF. I think the first class is quite interesting. It's how to make Wushu more attractive for children. So I think all these are pretty interesting content. So stay tuned to the IWUF social media platform. Okay. And once again, thank you, Samuel, for joining us, and we will see you next week with our
Thank you very much.
guest. All right. Thank you. See
Take
you
care.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.